Welcome to the Michael Brooks Show Postgame. Joining me is the great Alyona Minkovski. I hope I did that somewhat well.
That was great.
Alyona is Michael Brooks Show crew. She's a Salon.com host. Thanks for sticking around.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
We have a lot more to hit here. In the postgame, we've got some sound from the EU foreign policy chief on the future of the two-state solution. We'll talk about that and some choice moments from Sarah Huckabee. I would probably put her in Guantanamo before I'd put Trump in Guantanamo, if I'm being transparent. What about you? Who goes in Guantanamo first? You're in the postgame. Don't worry about it.
I mean, definitely Trump, because she's,
she's a functionary.
As deep as my dislike is for Sarah Huckabee Sanders, she is, a soldier in the Trump army.
But Trump might be like he might just be doing like a horrible version of like Alzheimer's. You know what I mean? Like, because every part of him is horrible. So even if he has like a terrible disease, it's going to be the bad version of it. You know what I mean? Like, I guess what I'm saying is like, I think that at the end of the day, if all of these people, if like some resistance fantasy came to life and all of these people are arrested and there's mass indictments, the one person that could flip and put everybody else in jail is Trump. Like, he's the one who could credibly, I know what's going on. Like, there's all these meetings happening. And
well, he'll just...
I was tweeting that some girl was fat. I don't know what's happening.
He was just watching cable news, tweeting about,
Yeah, exactly.
what people look like.
Yeah. I wasn't involved in the meeting. There was a girl who's trying to be a beauty queen in Venezuela, but she's 10 pounds overweight.
I just had,
I was focused on that.
I feel kind of bad for the people. I mean, obviously they take these jobs knowingly, and Sarah Huckabee Sanders, I don't know if she enjoys that job or what, but
she enjoys that as about as anything she's capable of enjoying
willingly. But I still think that sounds like the worst job to have, and I don't envy anyone in that position. But she seems like a really miserable human. And I think it's very apparent in her tone, in her demeanor, and it's really painful to watch and listen to her every day give these press briefings.
I don't. I should be transparent.
Well, it's only because we have a TV in the office and salon, and like most of the time I'm not listening because I'm working on something else, but I can always just see her face. Maybe that makes it worse. Is that I just have to like see
it's like a horror movie.
Hearing.
You ever really want to see the true nature of the white devil? Look at Sarah Huckabee's face. Oh! And what? World star, baby.
She looks evilly miserable.
She looks like she was created in a cave, like all of the white people. She actually really does. DJ Danerkey with the great new beat. Thank you.
She also wears way too much makeup, may I just say.
Yes, you may.
It's just every day I'm always like, Jesus, did you have to pile on like the 4 pounds of purple eyeshadow that, go all the way up to your eyebrow that leave like no other space?
I really liked Scaramucci when he was like, hey, whoever the fag was that did the makeup job that day, that was great. Remember that?
No.
He did it one. Well, he didn't say that. I like Alona's like, I don't remember what he said. That wasn't reported in the New Yorker. You're doing fake news, Michael. No, he was on CNN. And this is one of these things that like these fucking nerds were like, well, you're taking him out of context or whatever. But he said something to the effect of, oh, and by the way, Sarah, whoever did the makeup on Friday, like, I want them. They did a great job. Now, if you're being charitable, which I have no idea why you would be, because it's both not funny and why would you be charitable to any of these people? He was saying like, I want that for me when I go out.
Yeah.
But the better interpretation is like, somehow whoever that Liberace was turned a 2 into a 4.5. Unbelievable. Like
yeah,
that.
I did not see
we're gonna play
hear
it for
this
you.
clip before.
Oh my God! Well, you'd like to relive some recent history. I miss this guy. Now he's
and my job, as I see it, Jake, is that these people work with me, and I'm there to serve them. If you think about the American military, the leaders eat last. If you think about the American military, The leader's job is to serve the people that are working alongside of them. And so me, for Sarah Huckabee, I want to do everything I can to make her better at that podium. I think she's phenomenal there now. But like every athlete that's training for the Olympics, every day we got to make ourselves incrementally better. The only thing I asked Sarah, if you're watching, I love the hair and makeup person that we had on Friday. So I'd like to continue to use the hair and makeup person.
All right, Anthony, you can always swing by.
So I guess what I'm saying is he probably agrees with you about how much she's kicking it on.
Jesus.
Hey, did you hear what fucking Alyona said?
Well,
way too much makeup. It accentuates the lazy eye.
I'm disappointed in myself, that what I'm talking about is Sarah Huckabee Sanders' makeup, because I don't think, we weren't talking about Robert Gibbs.
You should be ashamed of
that
yourself.
way. But at the same time, hers as a woman, I'm allowed to say, is like really distracting. There's way too fucking much of it, and I feel like I can just say, like, lady, you got to fucking lay off a little bit.
Well, as a man, let me say Robert Gibbs should have taken some runs. I'm sorry. You make it. Now it's like now it's like the classroom phenomenon where it's like can you fuck up the kid in the front row that doesn't want to laugh but knows it's funny? There's some of that going on now. All right, now we'll de-humorize ourselves. Well,
No, but
this will be as funny as it could possibly.
I'm almost ready for another beer.
The beer's going to come. Don't worry. By the time you get to the third beer, you will do the Obama
I'll be laughing
impression.
at everything, but I'll be horrified later that I laughed at.
That's exactly where everybody should be in the post game. Unless they're Milton Alamati. I think that's just another level of elevated.
Wait, is
that
Moose
none of us,
Jaw like an actual brand for something?
So I like that. Give the woman another beer. Exactly.
A Moose Jaw?
I don't know. What is that, a backpack?
I don't know.
All your
Seems
favorite
like an
places.
odd name.
It is a super. Are they watching the Monroe College ad, or are we?
I'm waiting if you want to play this.
No. Okay. No problem. I was just wondering if that's what's playing for people watching. Okay.
Sorry, I
So
got easily distracted by Moose Jaw.
you're still on that. All right. Respect. That's so earlier. So as we know, I just want to be transparent. I thought that Donald Trump's Christian Gillibrand tweet, it was misogynist, it was horrible, it was disgusting, blah, 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 all the stuff we already know. I thought, though, that there was an element of it where I thought he was coming back to some of his earlier, better material. I thought I saw some shades of the campaign in that tweet. I think he's been very unfunny. His whole presidency, I thought all of his sophomore efforts have been terrible. I thought his material started going downhill during the general, but he was still pretty solid. And I think that implying that, I knew Kristen, she do anything for the campaign contributions. I think he's back.
She'd do anything.
She'd do exactly. I think he's
And
back.
I mean anything.
I mean anything. I mean literally. Exactly. Alyona gets it. She's from Russia. It's true. I think he's back in his strike zone. So, look, take it what you will. If the guy's going to be president, I would prefer he at least go back to amusing me.
Well, it's the 280 characters thing, I think has honestly been really interesting when applied to Donald Trump, because he just has double the amount of space and characters to to just say outlandish, obscene things. But it's like you get double the Trump in every tweet.
Now the form hurts him because, like a great sort of like Basho writing haiku, like the rigor of the shortened characters, like I loved it because it would sometimes there'd be he'd have to figure out all right, how am I gotta
well, that's
say,
where sad
she's
came
a whore,
from. Yeah.
she's ugly, I gotta abbreviate pathetic, but not a character. Sad.
Now they're a little
now
rambling.
It's she's a pathetic. She's a whore.
Yeah.
She's stupid, but she's also pathetic.
And she's
she's sad. And she's gay.
And that. And cruel. And bought. And corrupt.
And corrupt. And I even like black people better than
used.
her.
Was that the word?
Well, that's she's used. He is such a fucking piece of garbage.
Yeah.
He really is the worst person on the planet. I think what I loved was when he was with the Native Americans. And it wasn't just that. It wasn't that he did the Pocahontas line. And again, I'm sorry. I guess I just don't have the liberal. I don't have the capacity to be offended. The fact that he is alive is offensive. The fact that he's president is offensive. The fact that we are in a society where in my view he's not an aberration. He's the fulfillment of the logic of everything from patriarchy to capitalism is offensive. So I don't have time to like, oh my God, I can't believe he said that.
Yeah, to hang on every word. I'm with you for sure.
Because first of all,
we have bigger problems like the tax bill, the millions of other things that you brought up.
And also, by the way, like I can believe he said that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
like what
totally.
what do you think he's going to say? But the thing I liked about the Native Americans is he looked at them and they really did, like those gentlemen, like they did look like from Central Casting. Like they looked like these are like wise men who fought in the war, and they look like poised and like they were everything he was not. At least visually. I don't know what they're like, whatever. But you have this orange mess. Then you have, what'd you say?
They're very rude in person.
Very rude in person, totally rude. And then he looks at them before he does the Pocahontas thing. What I love though is he kind of says it like, I know everybody wants me to do. Like he said it like, I know this is big on the res, so gotta can't disappoint my new friends.
Well, it was also like the body language of the kind of like weird thing where he only like slightly looked back at them. Like it's all kind of bizarre. I don't know. This is completely unrelated. Did you see, and again, not even funny. This is what happens now that like you give me a little booze after I've had a really intense day. The other day, December 7th, when it was the anniversary of Pearl Harbor, and he had a couple World War II veterans there, and it was like one of those sites where these veterans are very, very old. I don't know what Trump was talking about because the volume was off again in the office, but I only saw that one of them was wearing this like awesome Hawaiian shirt, and he had to be like 90 years old. And
fucking irresistible.
I just loved it. I was like the best thing. Like, oh, you're in the White House, with the president, and you're just rocking this short sleeve Hawaiian shirt.
See, that's
And
what
I
people,
thought it
instead
was
of
amazing.
refusing meetings with him, should like send like they should go with like, hey, don't hassle me, I'm on vacation. Like they should just show up with the most obnoxious, stupid shirts and just sort of like fundamentally disrespect
I just thought
him.
it was great.
That is pretty great.
All respect to that man, whoever he was.
Okay, so Donald Trump reached back into some of his earlier form by basically implying that Christian Gillibrand was essentially prostituting herself for campaign. Again, all right, I'm sorry. I have to do it again. Like, Susan Collins, that bitch will do anything for a campaign contribution. Hashtag sad. Hashtag totally unfair. Hashtag fake Senate. Fired up, ready to go. All right. So he tweeted that, and I think, actually, what does anybody have the tweet in front of them? Because I guess we should have the tweet. But the point, whatever. It's a fair read that he's implying that she prostituted herself.
Yes.
Right? This is not like us being like...
Begged for it and would do anything, I think are like...
It was begged, in quotations. Was begging. I don't have it in front of me, but I just remember that.
That's right.
For contributions and would do anything for it.
Okay, so I think that is not a leap.
And the used, sorry,
Yeah. That's my point. So she's gonna get a answer about this, and here is Goebbels, Huckabee. Sorry.
Taking place, and with that, I will take your questions. Cecilia.
Thank you, Sarah. The president said today that Senator Gillibrand would do anything for campaign contributions. Many, many people see this as a sexual innuendo. What is the president suggesting?
I think that the president is very obvious. This is the same sentiment that the president has expressed many times before when he has exposed the corruption of the entire political system. In fact, he's used similar terminology many times when talking about politicians of both parties, both men and women, and certainly in his campaign to drain the swamp. The system is clearly broken. It's clearly rigged for special interest. And this president is someone that can't be bought, and it's one of the reasons that he's president today.
So you're saying that this quote, Senator Gillibrand would do anything, is a reference to campaign contributions in Washington, the swamp. This has nothing to do with her being a female, What is he alleging would happen behind closed doors with her?
He's not alleging anything. He's talking about the way that our system functions as it is, that politicians repeatedly beg for money. That's not something new. And that comment, frankly, isn't something new. If you look back at past comments that this president has made, he's used that same terminology many times in reference to men. There's no way that this is sexist at all. This is simply talking about a system that we have that is broken, in which special interests control our government. And I don't think that there's probably many people that are more controlled by political contributions than the senator that the president referenced. Steve?
Wait, you didn't even have the part where she told April Ryan that, your mind's got to be in the gutter.
I thought that was the clip. I think we played the wrong clip.
Well, this is all the lead up to it.
This
right?
is the lead up
Which
to
was,
it. Is there a way we could find the full version of it?
Because I only say this too because part of the one of the best parts was April Ryan's facial expression.
We got it.
Are you fucking?
Oh, we'll have a commercial. Okay, we're doing this very, very raw here.
The American people have. April?
Gillibrand owed an apology for the misunderstanding of the president's tweet this morning because many, including the senator, thinks that it's about sexual innuendos.
I think only if your mind is in the gutter would you have read it that way. And so
no, it's not. What he said was open, and it was not mined.
He's obviously talking about political partisan games that people often play and the broken system that he's talked about repeatedly. This isn't new. This isn't a new sentiment. This isn't new terminology. He's used it several times before. As I said a few minutes ago, he's used it several times before, referencing men of both parties, in fact.
Yeah,
and so I think that if you look back at the past comments he's made, it was very clear what his reference was.
But April's face was like, what? That would be like me saying something about Sarah Huckabee Sanders' pearl necklace, and saying but that's just an obvious attack on how corruption in Washington works and how could she afford that pearl necklace, and claiming that it had nothing to do with sexual innuendo.
Right. I got where you're going there.
Sorry.
I think that's
lightweight. A total flunky. There's just
total flunky.
Oh my God.
Man, he really is a bad mid-90s rapper.
There he goes. And in parentheses, and would do anything.
That is so good. But see, this is the part when he writes stuff like that is the only part of me that's like, okay, he's still somewhat lucid.
Disloyal to Bill.
Very disloyal to Bill and Crooked.
Well, that's what I like. Well, this is the other thing we have to talk about. Let me see really quick if the phones are working. You are calling from a 310 area code. Are you there? 310.
Yo, can you hear me?
Hey, 310. I've got a 310 too.
Yo. What's up, bro?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, man. So, what up, Brooksy? This is Bryce from Los Angeles. I'm an activist and a house party enthusiast.
I like you, Bryce.
Yes.
Already.
This is exactly what we need. What's going on, Bryce?
Yeah, man. I just wanted to thank you and the crew for covering my boy Chad at the City Hall the other day on Majority Report. I mean, really covering the important issues over there.
Right.
So.
Yep.
So basically, I'm calling with the deep sense of melancholy that has encompassed my heart.
Yes.
Indeed, there is a raging fire that is no joke. But I want to talk about a different kind of rager for tonight.
Yes, please.
I just want to let you know, from my own personal experience, there is no greater joy in life than the joy that can be found at the bottom of a red cup. Last week, Stacey Stoudemire broke my heart. I didn't know if I was going to be able to go on.
How did she break your heart,
right,
man? What'd she do? What'd that woman do to you? What'd she do?
You know what? The truth is, she just moved over to Newport.
Oh.
Stacey Steinmeier?
Stoudemire.
Oh.
Stacey Stoudemire.
That's right, yeah. Stacey, she broke my heart.
Yeah.
I don't even really want to think about it, but you know what? I didn't have to. because my boy Brody threw a fat rager the other weekend, and we did a whole like Tour de Franzia situation. And you know what? I noticed for the first time, my best boy Marcus was standing across the room.
Oh my God! Did we go to
like,
high school together? I gotta ask.
For the first time, I noticed he has hazel eyes, and I never thought, like, wow, look at that guy. But anyways, I just want to say thanks for covering us, and thanks for giving us all your best.
Oh, so
that's all I want to say.
Oh,
Thank
honored.
Party on, man.
No, really,
Party,
you
yeah.
sound like people from my high school town, Manhattan Beach, and everyone I went to college with in Santa Cruz.
Oh shit, word.
So I love it.
You're from Manhattan Beach. I'm actually from Hermosa.
Whoa, yeah, I went to Miracosta.
Yeah.
How did I know?
Okay, so you went to Miracosta. I'm not going to give it away. I'm not going to dock myself, but I'm just saying we were pretty close.
Did you go to Redondo?
Very cool. Very cool.
Wow.
I said, did you go to Redondo?
Pretty close by Redondo, yeah.
Oh, I like that. I like Bryce getting very
Anyway,
discreet.
Yeah, I
we'll
know.
We'll leave it.
A little
But very-
sketchy, Bryce.
Yeah.
Do you have a
Making me break my
DGAF
fingers, so
tattoo?
I'm gonna hang up.
Oh, I didn't get an answer.
Wow.
Because like half the people I went to high school with have a tattoo that says DGAF on it. Like that's the kind of beach town.
Cali still blows my
Wait, I'm like
mind.
obsessed with Bryce.
Bryce can
And
call
that
back
entire
in.
call. That was
I'll try to get
amazing.
Bryce to fly in for the next
Tour
time.
de Franzia.
We'll try to have him co-host the show with us. Where did this go? I found this. I was supposed to print this out. I'm going to actually find this and read this on my phone because the last thing I got to circle with Trump is that in the New Republic, there's a review of Corey Lewandowski's new book.
Right. I forgot.
Called like "Let Trump Be Trump," dude. Like, just let him be like fucking awesome and whatnot. And the review's good. It's whatever. But I just needed to pull this out because like when we talk about how these people are paid to literally cater to one man's just I don't know what type of sort of endless psychopathology this guy has, but and the whole position of the review is like, you know, and we've already talked about this many times. Like when these people are on television, they're talking to him to say what he wants. You know, we know all this, right?
Yeah.
So this is the most amazing part, though. And although the mainstream media, and this is literally, I guess, apparently a quote from Lewandowski's book, although the mainstream media and other haters give him little credit for his intellect, it's a very good way of. I look like, although haters don't give me credit for my mind. Although mainstream media and other haters gave him very little credit for his intellect, Donald Trump has more than a fundamental grasp on a surprising number of fields, including Jungian psychology. One of his favorite books is Memory, Dreams, and Reflections, Jung's autobiography.
Learned a lot.
Learned a lot from that. Yep, it's like total. but also Jung, but also archetypes in a certain sense.
That's where I get all my nicknames from.
Are you joking? Did you already read this? Well done. Steve Bannon insists that Trump came up with the idea of the names Lion Ted, Lil Marco, Low Energy Jeb, and later Crooked Hillary from his knowledge of Jungian archetypes.
It's funny because when you sent that to me earlier, I was in a rush and I was kind of scrolling through, and I thought that he was basically saying like he came up with those all on his own. So I clearly even misread that it was from his Jungian knowledge, and just that it was like, you guys, he did it alone.
No, I forget the guy who wrote the article, and it's a nice piece, but honestly, I would not have read it had someone not flagged it for me with the "he's a master of Jungian archetypes" quote. I was like, that I need. Corey Lewandowski, like the guy just like ate burgers and like knew stuff and like wants to help cab drivers. I don't need to read that shit.
Yeah.
But he is a secret master of Jungian analysis, and that's why we have Lion Ted. That I need to read.
100%. it's just bizarre. I don't even know what to make of it.
I imagine that, like Jungian theory, like doesn't stuff come from the collective unconscious?
Collective unconscious. It's a big place.
Which is really just, I think, in my opinion, maybe I don't want to upset any Jungians, but that just seems like a way of mystifying things that you have taken from the culture. Like all these nicknames that Trump has come up with. People knew Marco was small. Like people.
But they didn't know he was little. See, it wasn't. His nicknames were amazing.
Yes.
I mean, he fucking nailed, like starting out of the gate with low energy. Like I remember because
low energy killed Jeb.
And that was, I will, like, whatever we want to say, I will say collective subconscious for a collective unconscious just for sake of the frame. Like, I remember telling a friend of mine who was working around Jeb, who's like a Republican strategist, and I was like, dude, like, that's not going to happen, right? Just from watching Jeb talk, like, and watching him, you know, like, some
He's
like
boring. You can't watch him talk.
he looks like an old woman. And he's boring as fuck. And I'm just being blunt. Like in
I've
an
never
era
thought
of
of
like
that, but that's so true. Oh my god!
Straight up. Like, I mean, it's just not happening. And I remember I told him, and I offended. I was like, dude, look, maybe if at like a Americans for Prosperity conference he calls Obama the N-word, he might get a bounce. But besides that, he's not going anywhere. Like, it's not happening. And he was kind of like, psh, dude, you're fucking like, you know, leftist Brooklyn media personality. What the fuck do you know about the Republican primary? I was like, well, Trump's going to win. But when he said low energy, I realized, like, that's all I ever thought. Like,
Yeah.
he did literally
he does have a way of
distill, like
hitting on the word that he knows is really going to either. It's all truth, right? It's the kind of thing that you feel like low energy, that matters if you're trying to become the
Right.
president and run a political campaign. Little, no, but it's still kind of like, you know, hits at something.
but not
that is
little, low.
Lil.
Like,
Lil.
and it actually did, because it isn't like,
Because
The
Trump is
hi-
a master of, you know, entertainment and media.
But
Not maybe like Jungian.
but in that
it's like
yeah, he's a master of Jungian psychology. Alona.
psychology
No, he's-
aside.
No, but I think that this was the part of the campaign where I always thought he was, you know, a horrible, disgusting, trust fund baby idiot. But I did think he had a certain savvy, because it wasn't that. It's like, it's not that Marco Rubio is short. It's that Marco Rubio is like he would be out. He's like out of his depth on like a planning commission meeting. Like, he's an anxiety-ridden lightweight who like has literally nothing to offer, and only in a like party of like aging near corpses could he be identified as anything other than kind of like a weird sort of, you know, intellect-free young man. And
Yeah.
Trump just, it's like, it wasn't just that he's short. It was just like, the dude has no stature. He's nothing. Like, Marco Rubio is nothing.
Well, he's like a scary neocon, which is what I always thought of him. Which
He totally is.
I did find him threatening in that sense.
Oh,
Because,
he totally, but he is, just because he's an outlet for other people.
Yeah. But I think that, you know, and maybe, again, this is like my own fault of kind of being too caught up in the liberal media. It's not even liberal, just like the media bubble.
Right.
Is you start to, you know, Washington for what it is. And so you're like, oh, you're right. Well, he is this kind of like young, attractive, you know, fresh blood for the Republican Party. He's like bringing like neocon foreign policy back and blah, blah, blah. He's got the whole Cuban thing going. And so like he seemed like somebody who was, you know, in polished political terms.
He's a 6.5 in a stage of threes. That's not exactly attractive.
Like,
Secondly, Cubans are not liked by other Mexican people or whatever.
Oh, my goodness.
And 3, he has dry mouth, so I'll be able to take care of him in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
It's disturbing to me how much I understand Trump's young psychology. Why is it that this all makes sense to me? It's terrible.
I think we might need to do an idea primer on Trump's Jungian theories.
I think we're gonna. And the last one, I remember when he first brought out Lion Ted, I was like, I think maybe we're falling off a little bit. And then
But then he spelled it Lyen.
Yes,
Yep.
and then 2 days later, I was like, Lion Ted. I remember I was hosting the majority for Lion Ted.
Because they're like catchy too. Lil Marco. I think that's my favorite one.
You're all just the playthings of archetypes.
Well, because was it Marco Rubio that was talking about his love for hip hop? Who was it that during the
I would assume
campaign?
that he would be the only one who would be like, I like Tupac, and I'm going to quote Tupac while I make you homeless.
I feel like it was him, and so that somehow just to me like makes it all that much better.
We
than
need to
Lil-
like go to
Lil
Iran
Marco.
and be like, picture me rolling. That was his campaign in a nutshell. Jesus Christ. And I remember there was this one moment where they played a clip of Jeb, and this was like where, you know how like Trump can be magnanimous after he's like completely sort of devastated somebody in the most grotesque way possible, and then he has like a minute of like so he had just totally just emasculated, just humiliated, like he did everything you could do to Jeb Bush, right? And he's on some Sunday show, and Jeb, they play some it really was honestly sad clip of Jeff at some rally being like, oh, you can't insult,
yeah. I remember
insulting people is not the way to, blah, blah, blah.
But he like stuttered through the whole thing and couldn't
pathetic.
even deliver that one liner.
Yeah, he couldn't even do his fucking little like, American people have a thing or two to say about that or whatever the fuck it was. and they go back to Trump, and Trump's like, look, Jeb's a nice guy. He's a great guy. It's not happening.
Just straight into the point.
He just like, he's a nice guy. It's not happening.
But you know what? It's like, so we're talking about all this, and I know that we're laughing about it because it is funny because he was able to just so like easily kind of cut through it with those types of, lines and jokes and nicknames. But that is what's so upsetting too, is that during the campaign, people saw him as this like straight shooter.
Right.
And then now all he does is not like he wasn't always a liar, but it's like, okay, you thought that he was different from every politician because he was like telling it how it is. And then now he's the president who just, it's lying every second about every policy that he supports and who it's actually going to affect and who it's going to be good for and, everything else under the sun.
But what do you think about it says about the culture, though, that we confuse? Like, look, I understand on some level, of course, in fakeness and niceties or whatever, there's some, but like, it was very disturbing that somebody just being a complete dick was equated with honesty. Like, I always was disturbed by that juxtaposition too. It was like the guy's just an asshole.
Yeah.
He's not. I mean, because he was always. I mean, I agree with you.
I get that people are kind of like fed up with the fake nicety and like niceties and like polished vibe of Washington because that is also so farcical, right? Where it's like if you just put a nice bow on it or like you put Paul Ryan in front of it, then suddenly it's not, entitlement or it's entitlement reform, but it doesn't actually mean like taking healthcare and money and savings and everything away for millions and millions of Americans. So I don't blame people, for wanting something that's radically
I'm not blaming
different.
them. I'm just saying the frame.
But yeah, it's
that
unfortunate
it's the same thing.
Because I think people are so desperate,
Yes,
and then they were so desperate for something different. And then Trump showed up. And so that got kind of mistaken as the correct path because it was the only different option.
Do we have time to do something slightly serious? And then we'll get back to the calls and stuff. Do you have, or are you too deep in?
Sure.
All right.
I'm fine. Listen, I've had a long day. Like I told you, I'm like working on the beers.
To your Obama impression. No, I just want to I just want to do this. I mean, we haven't. All I'm going to do, obviously, we'll do more of this on this sort of public show.
Oh, you just want to talk peace in the Middle East really quick?
I do. Exactly. No, and
that's
and
throw in
honestly,
Israel for 2 seconds.
Literally how we should talk about this. Because, well, whatever. I do want to play this clip because I think it's illustrative of this sort of total impotence of the EU, but the way in which through the extremism of both the United States and Israel, like there is this sort of odd, almost kind of like Eurozone, again, totally impotent alliance. But, the Palestinian Authority and the moderates in Iran have far more to do with the European Union and some key aspects of foreign policy than they do with the, far right extremes that are running the United States and Israel.
Look, can we just check out that table shape and the beautiful flowers
that is a
in the
very
middle there
EU
for a
meeting.
second?
It's like, let's have a beautiful, ornate presentation, talk a lot and have interesting titles and good accents, and then accomplish nothing. But this is some clip of the EU foreign policy chief responding to the Jerusalem announcement of Trump recognizing the Israeli capital in Jerusalem. And I think it's also relevant for us to note the fact that I have sympathy for the EU, but I think we need to do away with the two-state cliche pretty soon. So here she is from a couple days ago.
We believe that the only realistic solution to the conflict between Israel and Palestine is based on two states, with Jerusalem as the capital of both the State of Israel and the State of Palestine along the 67 line. This is our consolidated position, and we will continue to respect the international consensus on Jerusalem until the final status of the Holy City is resolved through direct negotiations between the parties, and we hope that the parties can engage in meaningful direct negotiations with the support of the international community. This is why the European Union will increase its work together with our international friends and partners, but also with friends and partners in the region, starting from Egypt and Jordan, and obviously with the parties, with Israel and Palestine, to start to relaunch the peace process, even if it seems difficult times.
So I guess my question is, do you think there's something that quote to me is a distillation of just every part of politics is living in its fantasy world right now, and that's 1990s diplomatic centrism living in its own parallel fantasy universe.
Yes, I'm very much with you on the kind of impotence of the EU there, and it's I feel like in today's world that would be something that would be written up in the headline and be the EU claps back, Donald Trump. And it's well, not really if you know anything or understand anything about the way the foreign policy works. And I was speaking with my former colleague Ahmed Shihab al-Din, who is a Palestinian American journalist who now works for AJ Plus, and he's done a lot of reporting in the region. And he did a thing with me for Salon about it, where it's what the Trump administration has done is, in many respects, just push further into the light the fact that the United States has never been an unbiased broker when it comes to, these types of peace negotiations. And so now everyone is kind of shocked that Trump would make this bold move. And I think that with anything that this president does, you have to question his own personal motivations, and maybe he was just trying to distract from Russia stuff that was going on. Jared Kushner, his son-in-law, and a senior advisor, and the man tasked with solving Middle East peace. I have to know
who Jared Kushner is. That is so fundamentally offensive to me.
I know
that I know that person's name. It's so disgusting. I'm not even kidding.
I have a colleague who thinks Jared Kushner is hot. Do you know how many times I've had to try to dress that down?
Your colleague's an idiot. Your colleague, don't tell me their name. That's a stupid person.
I've given my colleague a very, very, very hard time about it, believe me.
Oh, I'm not giving them a hard time. I'm saying categorically, your colleague's a moron.
Right, but so Jared, my point there, my colleague has weird taste and maybe, some, he keeps realizing that he likes guys that are slightly balding. And then the other day he was like, my God, my father is bald, and so...
Right.
He's going through a lot.
In addition to idiocy, he's disturbed, and I should treat him with more compassion. But that being said,
what I was trying to say, sorry, let me just
about this trust fund baby. Go ahead.
Is that so? I mean, Kushner also sits on the board of a company that's been funding settlements,
right.
And so it's the very notion of him being some type of an honest peace broker has always been completely bankrupt and absurd. But again, this is just the Trump administration bringing to light that the United States has never been really fair and unbiased in this position. And so, maybe I don't support this move because I think that it, can cause a lot more turmoil, but I think that in a certain way it might also kind of like force some more uncomfortable conversations. One of which, as Ahmed and I were talking about, is that if you look at some of the other Arab countries, it's so much of it has become more about the Iran-Saudi Arabia kind of feud and geopolitical rivalry in the region, that it's like, even other Arab nations, Muslim nations don't really care so much about the Palestinian plight anymore. Like, that's just not that important to them. And they have been making overtures with Israel. They have been really switching up their foreign policy, all because countering Iran has become a primary goal of theirs.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think that it's ever been a,
not that it hasn't been a primary goal, but you know what I mean? It's like
genuine. No, I think it's definitely a pivot. And I mean, even under look, the Saudi initiative that they offered several years ago was like the Geneva Plan, and the Saudis offered in that time a totally fair deal, which would have been grounded in this international legal framework that the EU is still going on about. It would have been a 67 borders, 2-state solution. And then the entire, who Saudi speaks for, the GCC, the Gulf Cooperation Council, they would have all recognized Israel and moved forward. And now, obviously, under Ben Salman and the obsession with Iran, the politics and the overtures are different. And I think the other thing that's becoming transparent is that actually there has always been a convergence between Israel and Saudi Arabia, and that just like the obvious immense U.S. bias, it's coming into clarity as well. I just would tell people, I mean, I think that process is done. That process is a fraud. And there was a time when I think that was a legitimate debate. There's people that I associated with on both sides of that debate, and it might have been a live issue. So let me be specific. Like someone like Max Blumenthal was always making, in my view, totally legitimate arguments, but he might have been wrong potentially in 2007. In that sort of conflict about the two-state solution. Now he is right. Like that position that this process is fraudulent, not going to happen, is totally vindicated. And so, the weird thing is that this is an example of Trump pushing something to light that leads, because even now the West Bank Palestinians, which are the only faction that have been true to this deal at all, they're saying okay, you're going to occupy us forever. So where's our vote? Where's our freedom of movement? I mean, that's it. Now it is a pure democracy and representation debate. And anybody that doesn't frame it that way is delusional, I guess, to use. Someone pointed out that I use that word a lot, but it's usually right. If you want me to use the word less, don't call me and say delusional things.
No, but that's kind of the weird, there are certain issues where I feel like Trump has taken something that is a legitimate issue, that people have been trying to point out for years, and he's just ruined it and discredited it because it's Trump doing it. Right. And then in other situations like this, sure, he is discrediting this kind of air of desire for a brokered peace negotiation in Israel and Palestine, but also kind of, like we keep saying, just, showing it for what it is.
Right. And I understand, and I don't discount the difference between a very compromised Obama administration having John Kerry coming out there, and even in this flawed, I would still say fundamentally unfair and asymmetric framework, saying you guys need to do something on this, and it's part of our foreign policy, versus well, Jared told me that these people might give me loans for a whorehouse in Panama, so there's your capital. I understand how that's fundamentally offensive to people, but I also think there's more of a continuum than people want to realize, as you're saying, between every administration and this particular
It's
issue.
also just interesting because...
And even Saudi as well.
Americans in general don't really care that much about what's happening in other countries.
Right.
And in the rest of the world, except for, it seems like when it comes to having a strong opinion on Israel.
That's definitely true.
And that is very interesting. Just the
And
way
now
that the
Russia,
two have been
actually.
so tied together. Yeah, but Americans still don't actually care about Russia itself. And I talked to you about this the last time that I was here, where it's like my constant frustration is like everyone's like, oh, Russia's the biggest story. You must have a lot to, a lot of people must be asking you questions. I'm like, yeah, no one's asking me about Russia itself. People only care about Russia in relation to Donald Trump. And the second you start providing any kind of political context about what's happening domestically within Russia, like people just trail off, and like it gets too confusing and too deep for them, and they just lose interest.
It sounds like the type of thing we should talk about more on the show.
I totally agree.
For real. Real quick before we get back to the phones, who is the craziest Russia person on Twitter? Eric Garland, Louise Mensch, like in that kind of zone of Russia crazy. Who's the craziest?
Louise Mensch is pretty, she's like pretty awful, but I feel like that's an obvious one.
She's like, I did a lot of drugs, and now I'm here, and Russia's gonna
My
kill
favorite
me.
was when James Comey basically admitted that it was his Twitter account or Instagram, and she's like, see, this proves it's not James Comey. Anyone who thought it was is an idiot.
She's just, she's a nut. What pisses me
brain's
off
not
is
so
like
good.
the random celebrities who have been like retweeting Louise Mensch. Because they have a lot more reach, and and that's just like, it's the unfortunate truth is more people follow celebrities and everything they say and do.
Ian Black like trying to do some I think he's funny, but isn't he trying to do some like anti-RT crusade or something?
I don't know.
Like that?
Actually, I haven't really been paying attention. Which I will say,
I heard that on Struggle Session, which is another podcast I listen to.
It's I haven't. I actually am guilty of this because I haven't said a lot about it, but in regards to the whole FARA thing with RT having to register as a foreign agent, the fact that the State Department first said this in no way is going to disrupt you being able to, keep operating. This just changes what you have to disclose to us about financial information, et cetera, et cetera. And then after the fact, they got robbed, or not robbed, excuse me, that was a totally wrong use of word, but they got...
You got to be very precise.
Then after
about
that,
things.
their accreditation for Congress was taken away.
Right.
And, and what the... whatever the organization is, what they cited there was FARA. And so it's like that's a actual lie. And you would think that other media organizations or journalists would care about the fact that the State Department just blatantly lied about that, but no one does, and that to me is like a huge example of whatever your opinion is of RT, just of where we are in terms of like the Russia mood and the Russia hysteria. And I think, Glenn Greenwald has been bringing up a lot of important points too about how CNN, had that report about the WikiLeaks email and when it was sent, the 14th or the 4th, and how after they had to retract that story and essentially correct it, like there hasn't been a reckoning where you have, because 3 different news organizations reported on it, where people have said what went wrong. And you should, these are media organizations that right now are on a very high horse, as they should be, pushing for transparency from within the Trump administration, but they're not holding themselves up to the same standards. And that they would be doing that, to a different news organization. And so there's definitely some like disappointing trends and attitudes to point to there.
But not surprising, I would say.
But not surprising at all.
Can I have another beer, please? All right, we are going to. I just reiterate, like I've actually, and I don't really. To be honest, the really honest truth is, I don't watch RT at all anymore.
Me either.
And
I never watched it when I worked there, and I haven't watched it since I left.
Right, exactly. And I've always had. I remember when I would do hits on RT. Like sometimes I would go on and do like basically just like a good kind of like lefty segment, and I was just starting in this business essentially. And to me, it was kind of like just doing media training. Thank you. And sometimes, there would be like, up next, Michael Brooks. But first, like, some guy with a weird Greek accent who says that, like, Jews hoard gold. Jesus. Did Jews hoard gold? Like, they would always have, like, this, like, this really, like... But that being said, it's irrelevant to the implication of what you just outlined. And it is kind of stunning, like, both that people don't see that, and then also that people can't take What I don't think is a totally illegitimate story. I think there's strands of truth around the Russia stuff. As I always say, I think it's more of like if you fucking poke around Donald Trump's finances, I would be monumentally shocked if you didn't find like criminal wrongdoing.
Totally.
Right?
But
that might involve like Russian organized crime figures. And those figures might have overlap with politicians and intelligence services. That is in no way remotely
But to be fair,
surprising to
even
me.
that attitude that you just took, because like, sure, I agree. There's definitely all kinds of shady shit that I think is going on.
He's connected to the
The
five
notion that
families
you
too,
even
probably.
have to like preface your point with, you know, by the way, like I think there is something very sketchy about Trump and the Russians.
Yeah.
In order to criticize a story that was patently false, that's problematic.
Right.
You know, like
Right,
you
that's true.
shouldn't just because you point out that something is wrong. Now you're suddenly like in question as to whether you're
But can
defending
I also
Trump or denying that.
Confess something, because
Yeah.
you have to tell me, like, the irony is, even though I will defend some elements of the Russia story, like I really like my attention to that. So I don't know the CNN story. Like I saw those headlines and I saw it was retracted. I don't know anything. I
So
never
it
read a
was
single
basically
piece.
that, like, you know, that the Trump campaign received, you know, a link, and now I'm totally messing it up, but it was like, here's, you know, how you can view the emails that were stolen from the Clinton campaign. And the story claimed that they were sent on September 4th before those
before they were
emails
released.
were released.
Oh, okay.
Which would have proven like, you know, some kind of collusion or whatever it was between the Trump campaign and WikiLeaks.
Can't believe John Podesta's
Turns
fucking
out
kids.
that
That's
was
terrible.
actually sent on the 14th after those documents were already made public. So it was really just like a, hey, check these out.
Right. Okay. So that's that's a
it just
completely
it takes
different
away
story.
the
Right.
entire point of the story,
Right.
which of course had been made into a huge deal,
Right.
you know, on every cable network all day. And so I just think like the sloppiness that is being allowed,
Right.
you know, in the reporting on these stories is unlike what we see with any other subject.
Right. That's right. That is true.
That doesn't, you know, that in no way takes away from the fact that clearly there are major questions to be asked, that there are all kinds of suspicious
Alyona
you know,
continue
points.
to feed disinformation to American news sources. Certainly will own all of U.S. government. Donald Trump will pass bill to make Vladimir Putin run federal treasury.
That's your Russian accent, huh?
Thank you. Yeah, it is.
I
And
can't even do a Russian accent because I
and-
speak Russian. I
yeah.
feel like I can't. You
Yeah,
know,
that
fake it.
was real cute, Alyona. Now I'm ready for your Obama impression.
I don't have one.
I'm waiting.
I don't. I'd rather do like I can do an Aryana impression after my 4.5 years at working at the Huffington Post.
Wait, I thought that was your
Michael.
Russian impression. Oh, that is terrifying. That did sound like Ariana. All right, can I feed
But
you?
Michael.
Can I feed you lines?
Sure.
Sleep is important,
Sleep is very important.
even if you're an unpaid intern.
Even if you are an unpaid intern, which, by the way, they do pay their interns now at the company.
Not when she was running it, right?
I think that changed long before she departed, but
All right,
I know
all
by
right.
the
Let's-
time
let's
I
not-
worked
come
there,
on,
they were
come on.
paying him.
Don't mix up the comedy. Come on. You have been let go because your energy is no longer desired, but I wish you a fruitful spiritual journey.
Oh, Jesus. You have been let go because your energy is no longer desired. But I wish you a fruitful spiritual journey.
Yes, this is a good Ariana Huffington. Did you ever do it for her?
No.
That's why I would have been fired if I was a HuffPost host. I would have been like, Ariana, how you doing? She would be like, I like your. She would have told me like, you have a great Obama impression. Like, I could do you too.
I know she probably wouldn't appreciate me doing. Although she has a good sense of humor about it. I feel like everyone's tried their
Yeah, she seems
Ariana
like she might have a
accent.
sense of humor. Isn't she? She's doing some type of like meditation training or
She,
something. Now?
yeah, she has a new organization called Thrive, which is, I think that what they do is that they work with, you know, corporations to help do seminars and whatever else it is in their workplaces so that their employees can thrive and achieve that work-life balance. And they
David's
also
writing a Marxist critique of the organization.
they also
Yeah.
sell all kinds of products on their websites, like a bed for your cell phone that costs $100.
You know what's so bizarre is that
I'm serious.
Jeez, what the fuck? It's like the type of factoid that makes me feel like Alex Jones. You're just like, you just know this is the end. What the fuck? Really? What's really funny is that when I graduated from college, I graduated in 08, 09 into the recession. And,
Me too.
Right. And I don't know, maybe you handle it. I don't know what.
Are we the same age?
We're around the same age.
Why
probably.
I thought you were like way older than me for some reason.
Thank you. Thank you, Alyona. I appreciate that.
I'm sorry.
I actually thought you were way older than me. Honestly.
I'm 31.
Oh, okay. No, I'm 3 years older than you.
Oh.
I'm 34.
Okay.
Does that count as way?
No.
Oh my
You
God.
thought I was older than
Better
you?
than.
You think I look over 35?
He's being spiteful.
No, I thought you. Honestly, I thought you were like 34, 35.
You dick.
Why is there something wrong with that? That's a great age. But when I graduated, a friend and I did a training system in Boston where we actually brought meditation to organizations and stuff like that. So we did like an Ariana company.
I mean, I think
Before it
all that
happens.
stuff is great. You know, I think that people
Yeah.
do need more work.
We didn't have the $100 cell phone bill.
Yeah. Yes.
That we skipped out on. All right, let me take a couple more phone calls. You are calling from a 478 area code. Who are you? Where are you calling from?
Hey, bro, this is a little awkward. This is Marcus calling from the back of a Rager in SoCal, bro.
Do you want to handle this one?
Marcus, what's
Yeah.
up?
Hey, yo, this is hard to say because I really love the vibe I get from you and yours, but I got some pretty problematic mockery and laughter from you guys on the importance of house party culture and cultivating a radical proletariat, brah. And I know what you're thinking, so I want to stop you right there because the bros and I really don't tolerate any uptight thinking or unwoke ways of living in any way, brah. I'll never forget the time I called up my boy Bryce for a cake stand, man. And after he tapped that shit, we got some Taco Bell, we pounded some Red Bull, and it was down to serve as clinic escorts at the Planned Parenthood like we do on the reg, dog. So, hey, man, I appreciate you hearing me out. Smash the fast bra and left his best. Okay?
Left his best.
But do you have a DGAF tattoo?
Jesus Christ.
You're not answering my question, Marcus.
He's off. He's off air, to be fair to him. You're calling from a 520 area code. Who are you? Where are you calling from?
Hey, sorry, is this me?
Yeah, this is you. What's up?
Yeah, all right. Hey, sorry, I had to. First, I just want to say I'm a member of the Majority Report and Patreon of your show, so
Well, thank
I'm
you
right,
for-
of course, in everything I'm about to say.
Yes, everything you're about to say is about 50% right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
go
I'm
ahead.
calling from Tucson,
Mm-hmm.
and I just want to try and say some things real quick.
Yeah.
First, Trent Franks is resigning. Sorry, I'm nervous.
No, it's okay. Relax.
There's a candidate, Brianna Westbrook, who's been running for a few months in that district, and she's excellent. She has great policies. She's endorsed by Justice Democrats
Mm-hmm.
and a DSA member. And so she's hopefully poised to become the first transgender congressperson, if she does win, now that he's resigned. Her
She would
campaign's
take
looking
that
pretty good.
guy's seat. That's kind of mind-blowing.
Yeah.
That's cool. I hope that happens.
Yeah, definitely. My second thing, I have a really specific question about Jeff Flake.
I hate Jeff Flake.
So
with every fiber
Yeah,
of my
he
being.
fucking
I
sucks.
hate him almost as much as I hate Alona's colleague.
Yeah, I mean, I went to his office on lunch breaks during the whole ACA repeal.
Right.
You know, so I'll never get that back because he's just a scumbag.
Yes.
But anyway, you mentioned.
All those lunches.
I know. You mentioned that he was lobbying for the South African apartheid government against
Yes.
sanctions on the government.
Yes.
So,
he did. In 1987, he was, I believe he was, do you know this story?
I don't.
Jeff
actually,
Flake
no.
was lobbying, and it was actually, it was like a state, I mean, he was, he was a young guy. was like a state legislature. or
Utah
something.
State
Utah,
Senate.
exactly. And oh yeah, if you have the story, you can go ahead, man.
No, you haven't.
He was involved. Well, as far as I can remember, he was involved with a company that had mining interests in southern Africa, and so he was lobbying for what they called constructive engagement, which meant no pressure on apartheid. And this was in 1987, when already that issue, and of course this wouldn't happen today, but you had a significant amount of Republicans that were actually voting to overturn Reagan's veto against sanctions on South Africa. So that's who Jeff Flake is. In addition to voting for every single thing that Trump has asked for, but somehow in this sort of delusional world, he is a resistance guy.
Right, absolutely right. So I have a point about that and then a question.
Sure.
In October 2010, when he was in the House, he voted for a 2,000-acre land swap in Arizona that would give the mining firm Rio Tinto access to copper there.
Mm-hmm.
Rio Tinto is the majority owner of the Namibian uranium mine.
Oh, wow.
That he was representing.
Wow. So that's a perfect through line in this scumbag's career.
Right. And then the question is that
he
there's
is
a spokesperson.
He's so fucking contemptible. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yes.
Right. No, absolutely right.
Yeah.
My question is that there's, this came up in the 2012 Senate race, and there's a spokesperson who says that Jeff Flake has had a long-standing opposition to economic sanctions because they hurt the citizenry rather than the regime.
Oh, I see.
And I think that's something that generally the left agrees with. Sort of.
Well,
right?
It depends what the sanctions are targeting, and it also depends.
Right. So let me
ahead.
ask my question, and
sure,
then
go ahead.
So I guess my question is why would
Sorry to interrupt you.
No, yeah, because you're starting to go into it, but my specific question is why were sanctions recommended? I guess in the context of South Africa, but not in the context of Iran.
Because the African National Congress, which is the preeminent party of liberation and opposition, advocated for them. That's the primary reason. And also sanctions against Iran, it depends which sanctions you're talking about. I mean, a wholesale set of sanctions against medical supplies, as an example, wouldn't make any sense. I guess if you wanted to specifically target weapons programs, I mean, maybe that could potentially be negotiable before the deal. And then the other aspect of Iranian sanctions are sanctioning specific groups that we would call terrorist groups, which, look, I'm not pro groups like Hezbollah, but the implications of those sanctions for things like the agreement with Iran could undermine that agreement, essentially. So what I was about to explain to you before, actually, was that I think, though, that the primary thing from South Africa would be, does the group that we would most like to support on the other end want that action? And in South Africa, that was definitely the case. And that's the primary reason.
I think that's a really good point. Because if I may interject for a moment there too, please. I think that one thing that a lot of people overlook about Russia currently is that if you look at the kind of liberal, democratic leaning opposition there, they are not in support of sanctions,
right?
Because Russian people are getting fucked,
right?
And it's these are people who have been speaking out, have been writing out also about sloppy news reporting, about hysteria as they see it here in the United States towards Russia, because they feel the brunt of it very much. And I think that it'd be interesting for people to kind of pay more attention to that too. Or it's are you making enemies through your actions of the people who you're trying to help, uplift and support?
Right.
Awesome.
That's all I have to say about that.
I didn't totally understand. So.
Yeah, I think it really. As we explained, it really depends on the And then the other difference would be like Iran has been isolated, which elements who are more reactionary in the regime like that in some respects, and people who would maybe be more likely to sort of loosen certain things up don't. want that isolation. In South Africa, they took seriously that they were like being internationally humiliated as well. So, I mean, there is like a case-by-case basis with it. Thanks for the call, man. All right, I deeply apologize. We cannot get to all the rest of the callers because we still have to take IMs and Discord questions. I'm really, really sorry, but I'll get to you next week. Let's see. You know that honestly on the IM system, we now get Russian language spam?
Really?
Like that is like no joke. It's so bizarre. It's been happening for months.
But like when you said IMs today, and I also in the email, and I had no idea what you were talking about.
I know. I got you. Have you been drinking before today? Is these
no, because
I say, what the fuck are you talking
know.
about?
I think of instant messaging, and I think of like AIM, which is now defunct and
this
dead. But it's
was the old. I guess this was.
It's just
AIM
funny
section.
when you say IMs because it seems very old school to me. So no, I'm not surprised that you're getting like funny spam on it.
That's what Sam calls it. I guess it does go back to AIM, and now people text through it on the app or something. I don't know. I never use any of this shit. And I think it also auto corrects to like IMS or something for some reason when I text it.
It definitely said IMS when you emailed me.
Yeah.
So
I
to
did.
vindicate
Yeah,
myself
I'll give
a
you
little
that. It definitely auto corrected. Sewer socialism. How much influence do you think our parents, grandparents, family upbringing have on people's politics? Alyona, you were raised in a cold Russian environment of very disturbed people. How has that affected your politics?
I think statistically, it has a very strong impact on people's politics, and you can see that across the board. But I think that there are exceptions. For example, my father, who, very much hates the Soviet system that he grew up in and left, now hates anything that to him resembles policies that are similar to it.
MAGA.
And so,
you got a MAGA dad.
I got a MAGA dad.
You got a MAGA papa.
And and so I feel like I've been shaped much more by my surroundings, by where I went to school, by my friends, etc., than by my family. But that's not how it works for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously parents influence, but I think you have something.
Well, I mean, if that's the case that all our politics are inherited from our parents, then we better be very worried when we see families like the Duggars.
Right.
And all lefties are refusing to have any babies anymore.
Yeah. Maybe it's time for us to procreate. Maybe you're on the right track there with this crazy marriage thing.
We need more red diaper babies.
Yeah, we need more red diaper babies. Let's all do this. We got to make sure. I actually talked to a couple recently. It was really bizarre. They actually said that. They were like, I think we're, but it was so sanctimonious. They were sort of like, I think people like us do need to have children. I was like, whoa.
Well, it's funny because the only people I ever hear make arguments against having children are like, why would I want to bring child into this world? Are all my lefty friends,
That's such like, I wish that we had like scarves to like throw over our shoulders. Like, why? That's like, that is the attitude.
Just not right. Yeah.
Like, while we're being like, why would I want to do that? They're out there on the field fucking winning. I was like, why would I want to bring a kid into this world? I don't know. Maybe because you could call Marco Rubio a fag. Maybe that's why. Now we're going to go rob every single thing that's left in this country to give to our kids so they could party in Sharm el-Sheikh.
Okay.
That's literally what's happening right now. The worst people never think about stuff like that. They're totally comfortable with everything that's wrong, and then all of the good people are sitting around listening to like This American Life, being like, I don't know. Should we do it?
That's so true. Even my fiance Jake, who comes from a big family, where like I call them breeders because like every single one of his siblings already has lots of kids. Like, and
nice.
and like, he was like, I don't know, like they're like he threw a curveball at me. Where he's always been such a pro kid guy, and he was like, it just seems like immoral. There are so many, like orphans without parents in this world. And I was like, what? Like, who the fuck are you? Like, it just seems so random to me, given his whole family, everything he's always ever said. And it's like, wow, you must be like in a dark place right now. 'Cause, I mean, he makes a very, good and important and valiant point, but But it's
I like that
it's-
Alona's like, you want to adopt kids? You must be in a dark place.
No, it was out of character is what I mean. Like when you see people like definitely like change their tune about that.
Right.
Where it's like something just happened to you where like you've clearly have, you've lost a certain faith in the world or just like completely shifted your worldview.
Yeah.
If
Was that a Trump thing? Did he start saying that stuff after Trump became president?
yeah.
Right. It was all fun and games. It was all like,
definitely-
it was like,
it was
I'm president.
recently.
Everybody gets iPhones. Everybody watch girls. Don't worry about it. And then all of a sudden, like,
It was maybe after he proposed to me too, and then he was like, "By the way, I don't really want to have children."
He's a smart guy. I like his moves. You just gotta wait.
Pull the
It's like,
fast.
by the way, isn't adoption much more ethical? Not that we should do that either.
Listen, being pregnant sounds miserable to me, so
Yeah.
I'm game.
Yeah, no doubt. Grilling.
Those are all horrible reasons to
Yeah.
as to why you should adopt.
Yeah.
I fully support adoption. I think it's wonderful.
You totally covered yourself there. To any patrons that are adopted, I apologize on Alona's behalf. I will make her do the Ariana impression for 20 minutes next time
my
and then
goodness.
apologize to you before we talk about Russia. Grilling with Gorka, I just saw The Disaster Artist. The main character talks kind of like your Peter Thiel impression, and his lame sidekick's name is Greg. You'd enjoy it. That sounds amazing. Staten Island Mike. Michael Ian Black did write a book with Meghan McCain.
Yeah, they're
That's
buddies.
True? Oh my god! All right, well, fuck that guy.
I have some very liberal friends who are friends with her as well, and I hear good things. I hear she's cool.
Okay.
Definitely, I don't agree with all of her political opinions, obviously, but I hear she's a cool lady.
Yeah. No. I'm not. Meghan McCain. I mean, if you ever need a greater indictment of like getting rid of the estate tax and how there are talentless people on television, I couldn't give you a better
Ouch.
example. I'm sorry. Let's see a few questions from the Discord. Why is Baked Alaska famous? Do you know? I don't know. I'm actually genuinely don't
I have
understand
no
why.
idea.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Does Michael think that the Bitcoin is a bubble, or is it a viable currency, or just astrology for libertarians? I'm going to go astrology for libertarians.
I go bubble all the way.
And it's also contradictory because libertarianism is astrology. And let's see. And the final, let me just take, this will be the final question of the night from Discord. This is a weird question, but I'll just go with it. Any predictions on the next sexual harasser to fall? What?
Wait.
Why? Do we have predictions? Like this is
On
like
who?
this is like literally like an invitation for a libel.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
This
This is like
literally-
essentially like
You know
what this question
I got asked that
is.
exact same question earlier today.
Are you serious?
Yeah, by like this like trade dude I was, this like hedge fund guy I was interviewing, and he was like, by the way, just because I told him I do political journalism, he asked me for my predictions.
Okay, I'll take the second part, which is slightly more general, but also kind of bizarre. No offense, all patrons are brilliant. Why no one from the music industry yet? That I don't know. That's
is
an
that-
interesting.
I don't know
is
that
that
that's
true.
true.
Is
Yeah.
that true? I thought there has been people.
I
from
mean,
the
you
music
have people,
industry.
like Dr. Luke and his whole thing with Kesha that's been going on for
I
years.
guess that was kind of before. Maybe it's
Sure,
maybe
but
they
like
mean in
it's
this
all part of the
moment.
same thing. That guy that wait, who was it that like Taylor Swift said like grabbed her ass or something? Which by the way, her being on time as a silence breaker was bullshit. But she did take the guy to court, which I appreciated.
I have no idea who that guy is. Who?
It was some DJ. I don't know his name.
Oh, okay. I
And
know nothing
also
about it.
like
Oh, it was Ira Glass.
did Russell Simmons? I mean, does that
Russell
count
Simmons.
as,
Yeah, Russell
you know?
Simmons. I don't know the specifics of that case, but I think he left his gig. So yeah, Russell
did.
Simmons is one. I've heard there's some stuff going around Bobby McFerrin. I'm just kidding.
Oh.
It's a joke. It's a total joke. I'm sorry. There's nothing sacred.
No, I'm sure. Listen, they're everywhere. It's like someone asked me that the other day too. They were like, "Oh, it's all in the media. Isn't that interesting?" And it's like, well, I think that's just representative of the way that these stories are being told right now.
Yeah, that would be a very bizarre lesson.
It's certainly
to learn
not
from
just
all
a
of this.
problem in the
That's
media.
all in the media
Yeah.
would be an amazing lesson to learn from this.
It's a fake news.
It's a total fake
Or people
news.
are like, oh, it's all white guys. Have you noticed that? And it's like, well, yeah, it's because like white guys are disproportionately in positions of power, probably where they can, take advantage of people. And so you're not hearing about people in so many other industries who are abusive to women because no one cares about them because they don't know who they are.
If you had ever had any kind of extended conversation with any woman in your life, like none of this, and this is incredibly depressing to say, should in any way be surprising.
Nope.
But Alyona will be back to talk more deeply about Russia soon. That's something positive.
I won't drink beer next time, so
Drink more
I won't
beer
make
next
like
time.
offensive comments about orphans, I promise.
Drink more beer next time. Drink more beer. I'm going to go to the spa this weekend and do a rejuvenation weekend.
That sounds lovely.
De-age myself. And,
Apparently, I need to go get a bunch of Botox done before I come in the next time.
I just thought, I thought just with all you've done.
That's a really nice way to try. Oh, you're so accomplished. That's why I assume that you look 5 years older than you really are.
34 is not old, and I need to really.
That's okay. I'm actually
bank on
turning
that.
32 in January.
I need to bank on that as a 34-year-old, that it's literally not old. This Sunday, Angela Nagel on the alt-right, Kill All Normies, and the kind of present state of that situation. Now, next week, Adolph Reed, we finally got him. He's coming on. We're going to talk about, he has a very distinct perspective on Marx and identity politics, and then my buddy Will Menaker is going to come in studio. We'll hang out and do it out like that. And then next Sunday, there's going to be another Illicit History with Corey Pine and I. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, David. Thank you, David Slavic. Thank you, all patrons. Thank you, new patrons. We really are truly on the move. Everybody check out Alyona Minkovski. We have links to all your stuff, obviously.
Thank you.
In the show description. You'll be on again soon. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, DJ Danarchy. I love the new song. And thank you, Chris Lopaco, for this one. Peace and love, peace and love, peace and love. Okay, bye-bye.